What's up, all you guys and gals out there? This is Logan from Crossworld TCG, and I wanted to profile my Mecha Frieza build that I've been testing around with recently. Uh, for those of you that don't know, Mecha Frieza is getting its Errata soon, and instead of its broken effect that it has now, instead it changes to a once per turn effect on your opponent's turn. So it changes so that you can only use cards like Cold Bloodlust and Nimbus for free on your opponent's turn, but you can't use cards like Planet Vegeta on your turn. So it slows down the deck a lot, and so a lot of people have been kind of overlooking it, but it's still, I think, one of the strongest leaders in the game, especially with a lot of the cell chain that's been running around lately. And it's one of the leaders that when it awakens, it draws two, so it can kind of maintain advantage. Every time you use an extra card, you add a card off a life, so everything, in theory, everything's supposed to replace itself in this deck. And then I decided to run it with the vegetable package, your standard cabbages, cauliflowers, and kales. Some of the best engine in the game. Khalifa, Self-Awaken, helps you get to your kale, which can pop cards on your opponent's field, swings for crit. Like, this package altogether just puts a ton of pressure on, especially since we're playing a yellow leader. We have access to Shugesh, which, along with the fact that we get free Cold Bloodlust, is pretty crazy. And then also another engine that I decided to run was the Broly package. So 4 of your 1-drops, 3 of the evolution, and then 2 of each. I really feel like this Broly package, aside from the 3-drop being a very good target for Shugesh, because it gives you outs to cards that you don't have, or that you don't normally have to. Like Kale can only hit 5s, and the Kid Goku card can only hit rested stuff. This gives you more options to popping things. And then also, it can help with your late game, because this deck, while it is very strong in the early game, like these cards are very strong mid-game cards that generate a lot of advantage, being able to like rip cards from your opponent's hand and then being able to kill them is huge. The fact that this is a 30k double striker that just rips 2 cards is great. And then I decided to play a split of 2-2 because the energy cost on this guy is pretty high. Later in the game, dropping it for 6 if you're trying to kill is like the main reason I decided to play 2 of it and not just 3 of this one. And then this one has to evolve, which kind of sucks, but you know, with this cheated evolution cost, you can do a Shugesh into this, blow up a card, and then force your opponent to drop 2 cards, which is pretty strong, especially since this deck, everything's trading 1 for 1, but it tends to lose advantage a little bit towards the late game as you start using your Shugeshes and stuff like that. You run out of resources kind of quick. And then also to go with that, because we're playing such a thick Broly engine, I decided to only play 3 of the trunks. This card's really good. It's another really solid 1-drop. Early game, it's energy a lot, just because you don't really want to mill your salad pieces. You don't really want to mill your extra cards, because they're like the main strength of the deck. And then right now I'm deciding to play 2 Pop Gotens. I feel like this card is really strong just because it gives you a way to clear Kabbas for 1 energy, or if you're playing against the SS3 Apes, you can pop their 3-drop King Vegeta before they evolve and make it so that your deck can't touch their stuff. So it's pretty cool. And then another 2 Terrasites for more Shugesh targets. This card is pretty good at applying pressure late game or early game, and it's not that bad to either charge it or to use it as not charge it or hardcast it for 3, because it's a 15k body and then it puts 2 more bodies on the board. And then if your opponent's playing anything that makes you choose stuff, it's pretty strong because you can choose your tokens instead of the cards that you actually care about. And then the best boy in the deck, 4 Shugesh. This card is crazy. It lets you play most of your deck for free once you only have a little bit of setup. And then to go with that, you know, the frightening Kid Goku can't pump into anything unless it's your leader, unless it has barrier. And then on top of that, I'll sort these all to the side. I played 4 Planet Vegeta, 4 Nimbus, and 4 Bloodlust. So if you'll notice, there's all of the yellow cards I was playing were all just power yellow cards. Like, the only ones that you don't really want to charge are, like, you're never going to charge your Shugeshes, but everything else here, really you only need 1, maybe 2 yellows to ride your game on. So I was trying out the Bulmas before, and then it kept coming up that I didn't like the fact that I had this yellow that didn't really do anything for my game state. All it did was cost an energy and was a 5k combo. So I swapped out that Bulma engine and I thinned down on like the Terrasites and the Trunks for a thicker Broly engine, which I thought helped with the late game a little more. Like, these cards are really solid early game, you know, preventing your opponent from setting up and then preventing big pushes. But realistically, you're probably not going to need 4 Nimbus in a game. It's just I play 4, or I was playing 4, because it helps you awaken. And awakening is pretty solid because you get to swing, you know, draw extra cards, put more pressure on your opponent. And then the last 2 cards that I was playing in the deck were just basically 2 more copies of Shugesh. This card is phenomenal. Puts so much pressure on for 2 energy, and it nets back the best card in your deck, or like any card that you need for that particular instant. It just gets you there. Like, this card like does it all. And then you can swing with this and pressure with it, and if your opponent pops it with like their own Shugesh into Kid Goku combo, it doesn't even feel that bad because you were losing this card anyways. And it fixes a problem in this deck where and then this is another reason why I decided to play the Brolys, was because there's not a lot of ways to kill your opponent at 2. Like, and the ability to pressure double strikes is just huge, especially once you're rushing them down. Because this deck, you really just want to outpace your opponent and then prevent them from playing for as long as possible, and then just do that final push. So we were playing just big double strikes to that accomplishment. And then that's it for the main deck. And then some of the cards that I was thinking about playing in this deck, but I didn't really like all that much, or might go in if the format changes, or if I change the main deck to include more yellows. For the extra cards, it was Crusher Ball and Battering. I didn't like Battering in my current iteration of this list, just because having 2 yellows to discard, or having an additional yellow to discard for this card, is very difficult. It might be in the sideboard depending on the matchup, but I don't know. Unless if this card, or if this leader becomes more popular and Cold Bloodlust comes back into the format, this deck will probably have to change again to be able to incorporate this card. Because just being able to end the game by not getting Nimbused or by pushing in and not getting Bloodlusted is very important. And then Crusher Ball, I feel like right now, if you're playing Cold Bloodlust, there's no real reason to play Crusher Ball besides, like, it just Bloodlust does more. But if you're playing any deck that can't play Bloodlust, Crusher Ball is probably your best bet. And then, again, like I was talking about, the Bulma, I just felt like she wasn't doing enough, and she wasn't green. And I just wanted to charge green my first 2 turns and guarantee charge green. And when I had 4 Bulmas in the deck, it was like my deck was half green, half not green. So it felt like there was times when I just didn't have enough green early game. And then some of the green cards that I was thinking about playing, in the first iteration of this build, I was trying out this Gotenks, because I figured he's really strong late game. He's basically a 3-drop, you draw a card, he replaces himself, he's double strike, like, he does it all. But I don't know, he's a good card. It's just I like the Broly engine a little bit better. The fact that it gets rid of your opponent's cards I feel is a little bit stronger. And then I was also looking at playing this 4-drop Gohan, because tapping out to play this card isn't that terrible, because your leader can do some of the heavy lifting for you on your opponent's turn by stopping them with extra cards. So he's pretty cool, like, to pop those bigger threats that you normally can't get rid of with your Kales. And then the last card I was thinking about was the Unyielding Justice, Super Saiyan 2 Trunks. This guy's pretty cool. Barrier blocker. When he evolves, you draw a card. So he replaces himself. Maybe if there's further down the line a different deck that might be good in. Like, I was thinking about playing this more in the Galactic Frieza deck, because he's cool, because you can put him out, swing with him, and then it restands, and you have a barrier blocker that stays up every turn. And then also for some other random cards, this Double Strike Champa is pretty cool. I like it a lot, especially if you're playing maybe like the Miras in the side. The ability to pressure other decks that are a little bit slower than you into taking double strike crit damage all game is really phenomenal. I think this might be worth as a side deck card, along with a couple other cards, but in the main deck, I just couldn't find the room for it right now. there's so many cards that you want to play, and I just feel like this card didn't make the cut. And then the other card I was thinking about playing was the Scientist Fu. Especially, I was very unsure about this card, about whether I should play it or not. But I think it's worth siding against the Cell matchup, just because if you don't have the Bloodlust for their 3-drop Cell, or if you have a Bloodlust and nothing else, and you have to go down to 1 card in your hand, or even 0, which sucks, this just gives you your best bet of getting back into the game. Like, this guy's huge. He's a 25k double strike, draws 2 cards, replaces himself immediately, and it's just 1 energy for all of that is such a phenomenal trade-off. Yeah. And that's the deck profile. If you guys have any comments on anything that I could do to improve this list, I'm open for it. Trying to make this as good as possible. Hopefully we can crack that metagame open, and stay tuned for more content.